Salute. The streets are buzzing. Welcome in tonight's live stream where we talk about NBA preseason game 3 coming up. We'll preview that. We'll have a chat with our guys in the building, Q&A, but we will obviously talk about the late breaking news earlier today is that Giannis Antetokounmpo has eyeing the New York Knicks as his destination, right? We'll get your thoughts. I'll give you mine. What's going to happen? Is this a distraction? Obviously, we're going to talk about it tonight, guys. We have a poll in the chat as well. I want to know how you guys feel about this situation, but man, buckle up. Marathon stream loading up tonight and a huge season ahead, man, full of championship aspirations. I'm ready to get into it. I see you, Doug Fresh. Let's get into it, guys. Really looking forward to the third preseason game, man, and we're going to make this stream about everything, not just about Giannis, right? I know there's a lot of people that are going to be feeling strongly about the news that dropped earlier today, man. No doubt. Like, the Knicks are in a situation where we're moving firmly in that direction of winning that championship. And when that happens, many things come your way. Obstacles, hurdles, extra news, buzz, anticipation, and all of that. But, man, we're used to this situation, man. We're used to this, right? It's New York or nowhere. Bob's in the building. Great to see you. And yeah, absolutely, man. Doug says it, man. The streets are buzzing, right? You already know. Johnny's in the building. Salutations as well. So, as I said, man, every stream we have a poll. And today, man, we're obviously going to make the poll about the news, right? And we're going to hit on that at the top of the show, right? Are you on board with a Giannis blockbuster trade, man? 4 options. First option, hell yeah. Wait, let's do this ASAP. Second option, maybe. Wait it out till the price goes down. Third option, no, let's stay pat. And the fourth option is Bucks will just use us in this situation, right? There's so many layers to it. And obviously it's not just about, you know, pulling the trigger on a deal like this. It's not possible right now. And there's a reason why the trade didn't and hasn't gone down, right? And for those that haven't fully caught up with the latest, you know, we'll bring that up right now. But Jason's in the building. Salute. You know, trade machines, all of that, man. Give us your packages. We'll talk about that as well. But obviously we'll preview game 3. I got the Minnesota roster and depth chart. And we'll talk about our New York Knicks right now, too. The Knicks that we currently have, and the Knicks that are set to make a hell of a lot of noise, too. Today's stream, we'll take a look at the NBA regular season win over-unders, predictions, and, you know, I'll give you my thoughts, and we'll go through each team, whether we take the over or whether we take the under, and we'll do that exercise. The Knicks are currently at 53.5, which is currently what most Vegas outlets have us at. And yeah, we have Dirty Dancer in the building. We're actually getting into the poll as well. We'll hear from Jalen Brunson talking about the Abu Dhabi experience and how great it was for the food. Obviously, Philadelphia were food as the Knicks start 2-0 and continue to start building that chemistry heading in. So that's what's got me most excited. Look, the Giannis thing was obviously very intriguing. I felt like something was going to drop sooner rather than later. I mean, you look at the Bucks roster right now, you know, they're clutching at straws at the end of the day, right? So, Shams, man, first thing in the morning, man, dropped that news, right? That the Knicks were the only team that Giannis wanted to be traded to this offseason, right? This offseason. And the Bucks and the New York Knicks had official talks, official discussions, right? But a trade was not able to materialize for many reasons, right? The New York Knicks, right, wouldn't be able to put together a package that would satisfy the Bucks in terms of doing the deal right now without waiting it out for a little bit. But that's not the biggest story, man. The biggest story is that Giannis really wants the New York Knicks and only expressed desire, and his camp expressed desire to join the New York Knicks, right? To me, guys, that smells of leverage, you know? Creative Lou, salute. Benjamin, salute. Says, not another year of this. I feel like, yeah, there's going to be some mixed feelings about this, and so there should be, man. Um, for many reasons, right? But as I was about to say, I think the key thing, guys, for me, and the way I'm reading this is just leverage, right? No, I would not do the deal right now. If I'm answering the poll in the chat, my response would be to wait it out, and I think that was always the plan. But if things come to a head a little bit earlier, you come to the table. The Knicks and the Bucks had a discussion, floated a couple of ideas around. But obviously, the trade can't go down right now because the Knicks don't have the picks, right? The Knicks don't have enough picks that would satisfy a deal for the Bucks, right? But going back to leverage and why the New York Knicks will have this, and I don't think they're going to lose this, is because Giannis only has one more year left, ladies and gentlemen. Only one more year left after this, right? And if he really wants the Knicks, I'm good with that. I'm great with that. I'd welcome Giannis with open arms, man. Anyone that's kind of looking down on this, well, you're entitled to feel that way because we have an amazing squad and we don't know what a package is going to look like yet, man. It's too early to even speculate. But if it's heavily driven by some picks and the Knicks can keep most of the core together, I would be on board personally because, there's no promises in the NBA and you'd be bringing in one of the most dangerous, feared guys out here to tackle Oklahoma, etc. But obviously, we've got to see how this year plays out. So I'd be more of a wait it out till the price goes down. The price might not go down much, but the main thing is that the Knicks will continue to hold that leverage, in my opinion, fam, because he has this year, he has next year, and then the year after next year is a player option. And if this is already coming to a head, as I said earlier, I think this has been brewing because the Bucks, I mean, the moves they've been making, man, been clutching at straws. And if you're their number one player like Giannis, it would have to have caused concern from his camp in terms of, having to waive Damian Lillard, having to, sign buyout guys like Cole Anthony, you know, move heaven and earth to overpay Miles Turner. I mean, all of those things, yeah, it might look like they're trying to help and satisfy his desire to win another championship, but they ain't winning another championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. So the fact that the Bucks were open to having discussions with the Knicks, that's the start. We all know that's the start of that breakup, fam, where, everyone sees it. Maybe you and the partner, just been growing apart and friends, family been seeing it, but it's been too early to even talk about it. But everyone can see it coming, man. Everyone can see the forest from the trees. So I'm not going to lie, I'm excited to potentially see this develop. Could this come to head earlier? Absolutely. All it takes is Giannis and his camp to really force it. But that would open the door for some other teams, I think, to really come in with some heavy hitting packages. And right now, the Knicks can't put together a very compelling package, right? But like I said, if they waited out an extra year, we will have an extra first round pick. You'd obviously going to have to part with one of OG or Mikal, maybe both, depending on Cat. Then you get some picks back for those players, and then you're in business. And if Giannis is really steadfast with only 1 year remaining and is willing to double down on that and say, hey, other teams, you guys can walk because I want the Knicks. That's where the leverage really starts to kick in, and that's something that we haven't had in the past. A lot of teams have been A lot of players in camps have been using the Knicks to overpay. And this is a situation where we know Leon Rose isn't going to overpay, right? And it could be just in everyone's best interest that we just see this squad this year and we see how this plays out, right? A lot of questions could get answered this season from our perspective, and in terms of, what's the next move, But in terms of a Giannis, man, guys like this don't come around every day, and he would strike fear into any opponent. Not to say we don't have those players right now, we do, but he's on a different level. I think I'm comfortable to say that Giannis is on another level, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? How are you guys feeling now? Let's shout you guys out. Um, Doug says they're going to have to give up that lot. AP says hit those likes. Appreciate y'all in the building. I mean, in terms of a package, right? Let's see what Kendrick Perkins is saying. Says Giannis is scared to actually officially request that trade, right? He knows he doesn't want to be in Milwaukee. He's just afraid, right, to see that other side of it, right? I feel like the Bucks, they know it, right? It's coming. It's definitely coming. Dirty Dancer says that was a cruel tweet to wake up to. Look like the trade was already done. Yeah, anytime you see that, man, like last year, man, deja vu. On the eve of a season, man, the cat thing just came out of nowhere. Coach says, make that move deadline. And you also add, by Josh. Man, Josh ain't even the start of it. It'd take a hell of a lot more than that. But the fact that they've started those talks already, I think this is the start of something. I'm not going to lie. Unless Giannis really changes his mind and says, yeah, it's the Knicks and Rockets, or the Knicks and the Spurs, and he really starts to get impatient. But right now, the Knicks have that window early, and it just remains to see how steadfast is Giannis on the Knicks, right? And I'm sure it's going to please a lot of us and a lot of fans that if he remains steadfast on the Knicks and only the Knicks, that's going to be to our benefit, fam. Don't forget, Spider Mitchell didn't do that, fam. And that's ultimately why Spider Mitchell is not a Knick. I see a lot of people blame, Leon and Wes, and, the Knicks backed out of the Spider move. To me, there's one main reason Spider's not a Knick, is that he wasn't aggressive with it. He went to sleep thinking that he was going to be a Knick, and he woke up as a Cleveland Cavalier, fam. That should tell you all you need to know, fam. Use your player leverage, man. If there's anything that LeBron has done and shown people, even Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, to extent, is hold on to that leverage, man, and don't let it go. Because these hungry dogs will come in and steal what is yours. Doug Fresh's facts. I want that ring. I want that ring. And that's what it's going to come down to, fam. And I think this year, the East is wide open. It's just going to be interesting to see, in terms of the packages. AP says, watch Adam Silver try to get Giannis to the Spurs or the Lakers, fam. Man, y'all know that the Lakers are going to come in hot, trying to pair Giannis up with Luka, right? Bob says we are too greedy. There's an old saying, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. Be grateful for what you have and stop getting more before you finish your plate. This team just build up Cat. Cat had an amazing season, in my opinion, Bob, and I'm excited to see this season play out. But I think this Giannis thing is obviously, it's come heavy today. It was brewing, but it's not just about the Knicks. I think he's done with the Bucks. He's at a good age. He's 30. He's going to turn 31 in December. But I think, he's still a dominant force for years to come. This wouldn't be like an Amari situation where he's coming in with massive health problems. So I think you could still see him play at an All-NBA level for at least 3, 4, 5 more seasons. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. You pair him up with them other shooters and other, all-stars, and you can really dominate the East, for years to come. look, even when Tatum gets back, I'm not fearing Boston. I mean, we took them down last year with Thibodeau. A lot of Boston fans have been saying, all right, you guys have got 1 year. Wait till, Tatum comes back. Well, guess what? We took y'all down with Jason Tatum. So I'm not fearing the Celtics, man. I think they're kind of done. They're yesterday's news. What happens here, but I think we'll take Cleveland down as well. Yeah, I'm probably going to fear Indiana more than those guys just because they've stood in our way for 2 seasons. um, Chris says the Lakers I could see, but the Spurs, they're all about Wemby. Yeah, I could see the Rockets too, just because they've got a lot of young cats that have some, really high trade value around in this league. So yeah, we will continue to talk about it. You guys know my thoughts, man. We're all fans, and I don't judge how long someone's been a fan, man. If you want to be a Knicks fan as of today, that's fine, man. More the merrier, right? But when you've been a fan and many fans have been fans longer than me, but when you've been a fan for a long time, you appreciate that the window, man, is very small and there's no promises. There's no guarantees. You have to go for it. And I think this is a different situation because, like, the news that I woke up to today, and I just simply focused on that Giannis really wants the Knicks. That's it. That was the only team, and we had a small window to discuss it with the Bucks. Yeah, nothing came of it right now, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to continue. And you have a generational talent like Jalen Brunson still here that would not be in the deal. So you would theoretically pair Brunson with Giannis. That'd be the most dominant Knicks duo, man, since Clyde and Pearl. Fam. Ewing never had that running mate. I'm sorry, Ewing never had that running mate. Yeah, Melo and Amari, that was great. A little cup of coffee. But if you're talking about a Brunson and a Giannis pairing, that could easily go down as possibly the greatest Knicks duo of all time. So that alone should understand the situation and the seriousness of that situation, fam. But yeah, continue to give us your takes. We shout it out, appreciate the buzz, and replay squad, join the conversation, right? Jason Benjamin, very active in our discussions with a super chat. Appreciate Jason. Hope you're doing well today. Let us know how you feel about the move. Trading away our core four for one player. It sound familiar? Question. Absolutely. I mean, I can understand how people are going to look at it that way. What are the Bucks going to want? Moving parts. It's going to be a lot, Jason. And that's why a lot of people were down on the Macau trade early because they felt like, okay, that's our Godfather package. The 5 first-round picks that we gave up for Macau. That was ideally saved for a player of Giannis's, stature. And that's the way a lot of Knicks fans envision this thing going, is pairing Cat, Brunson, and Giannis, which should be, man, my God. But to your point, the only way around this for me, and the only way that it would satisfy my, appetite for Giannis would be to hold out an extra year, half a year possibly, drive that price all the way down, man. Get Giannis and this is where I need Leon, Wesley. I need them to do God's work. I need them to get in the ear of the Giannis camp and say, hey, man, we're in on this. Best believe that. But here's what we need from you, man. Here's what we need from you. We need you to shut down everyone else. We need you to shut down all the other options. The Rockets, Spurs, Lakers, all of them, and say, nah. Go to the Bucks, go to the owner and say, hey, man, I've given y'all my best years, fam. I've given y'all my best. I brought a championship to Brew City, and this is how I need y'all to repay me, fam. You're gonna get a solid deal, you're gonna get an offer, but I only want to go here, and Giannis has maybe this season to give to the Bucks, maybe satisfy the, season ticket holders and do a little farewell tour. And in the summer of 26, it goes down with just 1 year remaining. I think that leverage he could use, fam, to shut some of these other teams out. But yeah, that's the only way I see it, Jason, where we get out of here with still, a really strong championship, squad. Yeah, I understand the trepidation, no doubt. And again, it gives us time this season to see how things play out. As I bring up the roster now, we continue to shout you guys out. Smash that like button if you're enjoying the stream and join the conversation in the building. We have a poll and a replay squad. Let us know your thoughts. I'll reply to the comments. Now, in terms of the squad, bringing this up, right? Putting aside the main players, putting aside Cat, even, guys like OG, Macau, Brunson, right? Putting those guys all aside, there's a lot of things that are unknown after this season, and I'm talking about some of the new acquisitions. I'm talking about Yabusele. He's on a player option, right, on just 5 million. We can't afford to really keep him if he gets a pay bump. Let's say Yabu has a great year, $5 million, man, he's going to command more than that. And so that is a great unknown, man. This could be a 1 year rental. Clarkson, he's 33 as it is. There's no promises that he's going to come back. So he's on a vet minimum as well, and he can be erratic. So we'll see. With Brogdon, it's already a case of, okay, how many games is he can he play? Is their health gonna come up as a concern? Hart, is approaching 31, 32. So there's a lot of unknowns as well. Deuce McBride will be hitting free agency soon. Mitchell Robinson hasn't got that extension yet as well. So putting aside the main core, there is a lot of moving parts in terms of this team after this season might look a little bit different. Putting aside a Giannis situation too. David M says Brunson Giannis pick and roll. Fire. Creative Lou, great question here. CT, what do you think about the Dardier rumors? To me, I think we should keep him just in case Hart, OG, or Macau get hurt or need rest. You said it, fam, and I said it last stream. If it comes down to Shamet and Dardier, I was thinking about this yesterday, fam, and I've made up my mind. And my decision is to favor Dardier. Right, I can lose Landry Shamet. I love Landry, and I would appreciate him being on the squad. But if push comes to shove, I'm not throwing away Dardier just at the expense of a Landry Shamet. I just don't think there's like a whole lot of difference. And Dardier hasn't even peaked. And so for that reason, I'm keeping Dardier. Fam, I'm keeping Dardier, and I would be upset if we just traded away Dardier to get a second or 2 seconds just to keep Landry. That would upset me. I understand now the latest news is that Dardier is one of the favorites now to make way. Now, obviously, it's key to note that if you trade Dardier, it allows you to get 3 guys. Garrison Matthews, obviously, would be the main favorite later in the season. With Garrison Matthews, I like his ability to shoot. But for the reason why in the future we might trade Macau or OG, if you have a Dardier on a rookie scale contract, that's going to help you even more, fam. Johnny says Leon is not going to let James Dolan bungle a deal with a la Melo. Yeah, I don't think he's going to intervene, like you said, Johnny. I think this is Leon's ship. He's captain of the ship, no doubt about it. Bob says no Brunson Cat pick and roll better. Also, he can shoot the 3 better than Giannis. Giannis isn't a 3-point shooter, and we need that. We need that. Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely agree in terms of I thought about, Cat staying in a Giannis deal. Could that be possible, Johnny? That would be the pipe dream for me to keep Brunson, Cat, and still be able to get Giannis. But he'd have to drive that price all the way down, and we'd have to wait a year and a half. Um, if that's the way it's got to be, that's the way it's got to be. You know, I'm not forcing this Giannis move right now. Please don't misunderstand anyone that I am a pro Giannis trade, but not right now because yeah, there's a reason it just hasn't come to fruition. I think if it made sense for both sides to get it done, they would have got it done back in August, which is quite early in the still with plenty of time to, to acclimate and come into training camp. But look, even if you're the Bucks, it makes no sense to do it right now. According to Kendrick Perkins, he feels like Giannis won't force that trade or he won't officially request a trade. And I kind of agree to him, one of the reasons I respect Giannis so much is that the way he carries himself, you know, on and off the court, he is a real role model according to, the obstacles or the way he's handled himself in a small market, you know. Put it this way, with some of the moves the Bucks have made, he's a better man than some because some would have just said, "Man, get me the heck out of here." And the way Giannis has stayed loyal to Milwaukee, I can't speak for any Bucks fans. They're going to feel how they feel. But the way I would feel is that, man, Giannis don't owe us nothing. He's welcome to see out his contract, and obviously he's in the prime of his career now. Uh, Yuri says, "Screw Giannis. This is Melo all over again." And y'all have no faith in this team, I swear. So yeah, there's definitely a polarizing opinion right now. And the chat, as we do a check-in, are you on board with the Giannis trade? 43% leading says, hell yeah, let's do this ASAP, right? But close behind, second option says, no, let's stay pat at 31%, right? So quite a balance, fam. Coming in at number 3 at 17% says maybe, but we'll wait it out till the price goes down. And fourth, last but not least, 9% say the Bucks will just use us, right? And that's where I said I need Giannis to really step in and control this situation. And I mean, and I appreciate Yuri, love the contributions and the conversations, appreciate y'all and the differing opinions on this. The reason I think this is so different to Melo is that Melo really wanted that trade ASAP. It got to All-Star weekend. Melo was like, I'm out. I want my bag and y'all need to deal me. And the Knicks, yeah, they gave up more than they had to. James Dolan stepped in. The reason I think this is going to go down different, if it goes down at all, is because Giannis is patient. As I said before, Giannis ain't forcing nothing yet. And so he just needs to let the executives handle what they do. And let's just see this thing play out. Jet Life for Life, salute. Says salute CT, no trade for now. Too. So yeah, a lot of mixed opinions, man. A lot of ride or dies with this squad you see on screen. And I love that. I appreciate that. We have a great opportunity to compete for the championship this season. And yeah, it's ill timing for many of the diehards that this has come up, right? But truth be told is that there's no promises, man. Like I said, I want that championship as the most of y'all. And I've been a Knicks fan for almost 35 years now. And I gotta be truthful, man. I go to sleep at night sometimes wondering if and when I'm ever gonna see that championship. And yeah, this season I believe more than ever. I think this is our best shot since '94. Houston Rockets NBA Finals. I think this season, and the reason people are saying championship or bust, is because the East. The East is so wide open. And I think it's, we all feel it in the air. This is our best shot since 1994. 1999 was a Cinderella run. and 8th seed, things clicked, and we got through the East, but we all knew there was San Antonio with Tim Duncan. It was Sean Elliott, David Robinson. Those guys were the favorites, and that was a hell of a task right now. This season, I don't see anyone of that caliber. As much as I respect OKC, I don't see anyone of that caliber standing in our way. It's going to be tough. Um, but yeah, I think this is our best shot, fam. Next up, Johnny says, yes, CT, you've come to your senses. Pac-Man over Shamit any day. Yeah, I think a lot of us got love for Landry. But yeah, I just feel like it's the sensible move, man. Let's draw a line in the sand for once and not get too short-sighted. Brogdon I can handle. Clarkson, vet minimum, I can handle. But to make way for 3 or 4 of these vets and just jettison Pac-Man, no thanks. Man, Landry, y'all can wait in Westchester. Y'all can wait around. Appreciate y'all for what y'all did last year. But yeah, I'm drawing a line in the sand with the Pacome move. He's 19, 20, and it's just way too early to be comfortable getting rid of Pac-Man. Man, the jump shot looks great. Also, above the rim says it here as well. If Pac-Man hits, trade asset. Yeah, if you wait even more, you don't trade Pacome Dardier for some, putrid second round pick. It might bless you later in terms of, you get more value by just holding on to a guy on a rookie scale deal. Above the rim also says, yeah, we have leverage. Let's just wait. That's the key thing, and to other guys' point about Melo, we had leverage in the Melo deal, but we unfortunately we forfeited the leverage, but we got Melo in the building. The Brooklyn Nets were also circling too, so it is going to be tricky to see how this plays out. But yeah, look at Dardier together with McCall, man. That just definitely gets me fired up. Yuri doubles down, says, sorry, screw Giannis, he can stay in Milwaukee. David says, everyone available, get him. Building Block says, Giannis is only 30 years old. Yeah, he's going to hit 31 in December, but yeah, I could see him being really still dominant for, I think, at least 3 or 4 more seasons. Now, in terms of the makeup of the squad, like, as Bob said earlier, and shout out to everyone in the chat, you guys are rocking out and buzzing. And I think the shooting is a big thing that we would lose if Cat was in a deal. But you'd have to find a way to supplement that with some other shooting. I don't know what the salary cap situation would look like. Would that allow you to keep Yabusele? Would that allow you to keep a little bit of extra money? We all know that the Knicks can't take back more salary. So if a Giannis trade was to happen at any point in the future, the Knicks would still have to send out more salary than they're getting back, which means that we might get more wiggle room to keep a potential Yabusele, to pay Huck Porty. If, let's say, Huck Porty has an amazing year and he becomes expensive, it might give us some wiggle room to pay Deuce McBride. So there are pros and cons, fam. There are pros and cons to everything, fam. And shout out to New York Basketball, tweeted this out. We all know how vocal Giannis is with respect to the New York Knicks as an opponent. Back in the season, last season, Giannis said on JB in January, one of the best players in the league, one of the best point guards in the league. He takes his time, right? Whenever you show your hand, he's going to take advantage. He's extremely smart, and we just got to do a better job on him. So, Giannis, man, yet to play with a point guard, I think, on Jalen Brunson's age and level, fam. Yeah, Damian Lillard, Drew Holiday, I think, various points in their career were top, but not to the level of a Jalen Brunson, fam. Yeah, Jet Life says it. No CT, no trade for now. Also, Jet Life for Life Salute says we need to be trying to trade Dardier right now. Why are we worried about Giannis? Yeah, the Dardier thing is still in. That's in the works. In terms of not Dardier just specifically, but the trade to clear up space. But yeah, I think they're also exercising patience on that, Jet Life. I think the Knicks have got 3 more preseason games to go, and we're going to talk about that tonight. The Knicks are waiting until the final hour to make a call, because let's say Brogdon goes down, or let's say Jordan Clarkson continues to be average, or let's say Kolek makes some strides. Let's say Garrison Matthews really pops more than Landry, then there's more decisions to be made. And so I think they're just waiting for preseason to shake out, fam. Now the news coming out of camp is that Garrison Matthews is going to get a big shot in Game 3, and I'm looking forward to that, fam. Just like I'm looking forward to this drop, as we had confirmation, man. October 15, the new statement, unis will drop, fam. Here's a little snippet from a video that the Knicks dropped earlier today. Man, it looks nice. Anytime you see the black with the orange blend with the blue, kind of like the Madison Square Garden lights, you see it? You see the vision, fam. That is going to go hot. That's going to go hot, fam. But I'm not going to lie, man. I'm not a fan of the Jordan Jumpman logo, fam. I know this is the statement uni, but anything Jordan on the Knicks, it just doesn't sit right for me. But outside of that, man, it definitely looks nice. It definitely looks hot. Uh, uh, so Paul is in the building. Great to see Optimus 2G. Paula says, I don't think so, because we would have to strip down the team. Also, give up draft picks. Yeah, it's tough to even know. And I think there will be more leaks coming out in terms of what packages might be more, likely than not. What packages, there could be closer to potential trading time. But I think right now this is just Giannis and his camp and the Bucks just basically formalizing the inevitable, you know. And the reason we're talking about this is going to shake up the league, guys. This isn't just about the New York Knicks. If Giannis doesn't come to the Knicks, he's going to go somewhere else, and this is all about the start of the breakup between the Bucks, and I shudder to even think you don't want that silent assassin, Brad Stevens, and the Boston Celtics. No, no, no. If y'all don't want to give up a solid package for Giannis, that's okay. But don't complain if Brad Stevens pulls out something out of the a rabbit out of the hat, and trades Jaylen Brown and Derek White and picks and or young players and whatnot. Because y'all know that Brad Stevens will move heaven and earth to pair Jason Tatum with Giannis. Fam, y'all don't want that. We don't want that. With that said, and let the Boston Celtics retool. Right now I can't really see a pathway for Boston to kind of retool, because KD already went. Bron's about to retire. Steph's gonna, the sun is setting. I can't really see a pathway for Boston to pull off a major blockbuster. Maybe if Devin Booker ends up, getting impatient. But for now, we're top billing. We're top billing in the East, and I hope that it stays that way. Now, we had a great quote from Deuce McBride coming from Steve Popper of Newsday about McBride's fit, ignoring the trade rumors, and just being that homegrown New York Knick. Man, you love to hear this, right? So Deuce McBride says, I want to be a Knick for life. When the fan base is behind you through the ups and the downs, man, it's great to play at MSG. It's the Mecca. I love the city. I love the fans. It's a hustle culture, and I'm a hustle guy. It's perfect. Coming from Deuce McBride, man. I mean, incredible. You love to hear that. Deuce McBride been dealing with some trade rumors recently, but I can't say it's affecting his game. I mean, he's been absolutely come into play mid-season form right now. So you love to hear that. Mark says keep Matthews. Yep, definitely. I like what I'm seeing ahead of. I think Matthews for me would be slightly ahead of Landry, but I would definitely want to keep Pacome. So it is getting a little tricky, right? Who else could get traded? Well, there's some other young players that the Knicks will be looking at as well. Prezi the boss says we'd still have McCullough, Diawara, and Huck with Jemison and Tosan, with Dink Pate and Donovan Williams, Westchester. We still have talent that can be developed for the future. Yeah, we do. We have credit to the front office. We have a draft pick in this year's upcoming draft, which we can't trade. And so, we're kind of too good to be playing and developing all these young guys. So yeah, someone might, miss out at that expense. But I do think with just the comparison between Dardier and Shamet, to me it just makes no sense, right? It's not like Shamet is a world beater, right? He's a solid, savvy vet, and could give you some solid minutes, but he's still up and down. Let's not pretend like he's a huge upgrade on Dardier or anything like that. I mean, all it takes is Dardier to take one step up at his age, and it could click with the size as well, the athleticism, right? You can't just give up on 6'9", 6'10" wings as well. And I like the duo of Diawara and Dardier. They're countrymen. I think they will stick together, motivate each other, and be focused, man. I think they could be both homegrown talents for the New York Knicks. McCullough looks good as well. So we'll hear from Mike Brown as well. Brown was talking about Cat's offensive role, taking the time now to figure out how that will change based on the position that he plays, based on which position he plays. So yeah, I really like what I'm seeing from Brown. He's open to a lot of ideas. He's open to moving guys around. I think Cat at the 4. Cat's talking about slimming down and showing his ability to run the floor so far in preseason, which is great. Yuri Ark says, I want to win a chip with the squad we got. And Margaret says, no, Giannis. I like that. I like our team. I like our team. Prezi the boss says, media content creators just need something to talk about. Watch tomorrow. There's going to be an announcement that sources say Edwards doesn't feel too happy with Minnesota and wants to be a Knick. That's definitely the case a lot of the times, I think, Prezi, but not all the time. If with this Giannis thing, as again, I go back to the beginning, this is the inevitable. It's not just about the Knicks. He was always going to leave the Bucks, right? And yeah, we're the sexiest team in the East, so it's common sense that he's going to want us. So I don't think this is about, LeBron using us in the past, or Kevin Durant, or Melo even. I think this is more of a real substance, a realer substance. I think because the divorce between Giannis and the Bucks is going to happen. He's 30, and I kind of respect Giannis if he does force it, because we all know. Look at Damian Lillard, man. He waited too long. He stayed too loyal to the Portland Trailblazers, and in the end, man, I think he's most likely going to miss out on that ring. Paula says, but Boston will have to give up the moon to do that. Plus, Giannis is not spry as he used to be. How long he would have to wait until Boston is good again. I think that's a fair point, but Giannis and Tatum, again, the East is there for the taking. So I think I like Cat and Brunson, man. But if Boston was to swoop in and get Giannis and Tatum, man, I'm not going to hesitate to say that puts Boston back ahead of us, right? As much as I love Cat and Brunson, So yeah, there comes a time when you do have to get aggressive. Jet Life for Life says, CT, would you rather though depend on an in Bacombe, or would you rather go in with a known commodity in a Brogdon, Shaman and Matthews? So I think there's room for a little bit of everything. And I think common sense, if I look at the roster, fam, I'm okay with Brogdon, I'm okay with Clarkson, and I'm okay with some of the vets, but not all of them, fam. I think there's room for some, but not for all of them, fam. And I think with Shaman and Dardier, like, give me Dardier's upside. Shamet has no upside. The upside is that he is just Landry Shamet and that he stays healthy, which is still a question. With Dardier, he can provide, well, he's growing still into his body and he provides that extra size. The shooting is still an upside thing, and I think he's still cheap. And he could be an asset that continues to grow, a trade asset in the future. Right now, Landry Shamet is not a trade asset, fam. So I'm okay with Brogdon. Keep him around. Give him that final spot. We got Clarkson. And yeah, I would just be patient on Dardier for one extra year. Because I think Dardier is only going to get us like a second rounder at best right now. Diamond says, what's up? Cat, Hart, and Brunson. And I'm not trading everyone else. Can go for Giannis. So y'all are happy to see if the price goes down as well, as long as we wait and be more mindful of what our enemies have to trade for Giannis. Yep. Like I said, this is different because look, yeah, I spoke about the spider thing, and I'll just quickly rehash that again for those that missed it. Right? I'm not sweating that Spider's not a Nick, but the reason he's not a Nick is because, man, he's just a mild mannered, cool guy. He didn't force it. The fact that Giannis and his camp have come out and let this leak out for whatever reason and said, I only want the Knicks, I respect that. I respect that. It gives the Knicks more leverage. And yet we might not still have enough leverage to get this deal done right now. But it gives us leverage that some of these other guys never gave us. You know, Melo gave us some leverage, but Dolan kind of, overpaid a bit. But outside of that, man, Kevin Durant, flirted with us, LeBron, but they never gave us that leverage. The fact that Giannis has come out and done that, I respect that. Some of y'all may not care, but I respect that. It means something to me as a kid that grew up where the Knicks were just struggling to sign superstars. It was Patrick Ewing with a bunch of great gritty role players. But none of these box office superstars were like, yeah, get me to New York. Everything else be damned. I want to be a New York Knick. That means something to me. Some of y'all may just think he's using us, but at the end of the day, it means something to me that a big time player wants to come. Let's see if he can double down now and make it more possible. Now, next up, we have a super chat from our guy Yuri Ark. Always got us buzzing. What's up, Yuri? If the Knicks win a title, Giannis will regret it. If the Knicks win a title, Giannis will regret it. In terms of, missing out. Obviously the window's small, man. And yeah, the NBA can change so quickly. That's the thing, like with superstars and trades and the new CBA as well. And look, I respect all these guys on screen for the deals they've taken to help this, become possible. The reality is we are a championship contender right now, like Yuri says, and no one can take that away from us. It's been years in the making, a lot of hard work from Thibodeau, the squad, and guys sacrificing, and we're already here. But let's see the season play out. Let's see how it plays out this season. Again, I'm really intrigued to see Cat, in the second year. He can be that Robin or the Batman on any given night to Brunson, and that's enough to help you win a championship. Now, if we can get to the finals, then there's no promises. We've got to see who the opponent is. But if you get to the finals, you have a legit shot. You have that legit shot. And the pathway is there, fam. I can see the light. I could see the light through the tunnel right now. Mark says, I just don't trust Brogdon. He's injury prone. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I do have some concerns over Brogdon, but I think it's minimal risk right now. I think it's a risk you just got to take. And just maybe, make sure we keep around Deuce, which we are. Deuce is out of any trade talks, which is great. Kolek's still here. Let's see what he can be. Clarkson is here as well. But I think Brogdon's a risk worth taking. Maybe you can take it easy with him and try to keep him healthy for the postseason. But that's why I don't want to take too much of a gamble on all these vets. Between Landry, Clarkson, Brogdon, I think there's a lot of redundancy there, fam. Let's keep it a buck. There's a lot of redundancy with Clarkson, Brogdon, Shamet. They're shooters. They're all a little bit undersized in terms of Clarkson and Shamet. Keep Dardier. I've made my decision now, man. I want to keep Pacome Dardier and just be a little bit more patient, fam. We've given up on a lot of guys early, and I think we just for once need to just keep Dardier and just see what plays out. Randu, salute. Great to see you in the building. Margaret says, I will not want to give up OG. No way. I would love to not give up OG as well. OG's been a killer. He's been a savage since becoming a New York Knick. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's going to have to be one of those guys, major salary. It'd have to be Cat or OG. I think possibly both, going to different directions. I mean, man, it'd be a blockbuster, man. But for right now, the story is about this season. I think I've highlighted the Giannis stuff as much as I possibly can, giving you my opinion. Right now, the poll. Okay, let's do a check-in. Right, shout out to everyone that's voted in the poll in the chat. Over 60 votes. Are you on board with a Giannis blockbuster trade? Right now, the top option has changed, coming in at 40% now. Says no, let's stay pat. So the tide is changing, but close behind, number 2 at 36% says, hell yeah, let's do this ASAP. Right behind at 35%, 42% now says no, let's stay pat. The third option at 18% says maybe wait it out till the price goes down, right? Let's see how loyal Giannis is to the cause. And at 5% says the Bucks will just use us to get the best possible package. Yep. And look, now this is out in the open, man. A lot of other GMs and they're circling like sharks. They're circling like thieves in the night right now. Whether it be Houston Rockets general manager, whether it be I don't even know, man. Sam Presti's probably cancelled his lunch to take a meeting right now and talk about this situation. Now the NBA landscape has been put on notice that Giannis is going to get dealt at some point. And let's see what he does with the Bucks and his camp. Now, good comment from David here. Says, I was a huge RJ fan and was hesitant to move on from him with OG, but it was the best move for us. Can't get too attached. In Leon, we trust. Can't get too attached, says David. In Leon, we trust. And if we win that championship, David, this season, yeah, all will be for the cause. RJ, Randall, Grimes, quickly. Definitely, we're in our strongest position. Chris Gotti listening in on the ride home. Salute to Chris Gotti as well. Hope you've had a blessed day as everyone's with us. Bless up to everyone, Knicks Nation. We're ready for a huge season, man. I love the squad we've assembled. Still some big decisions to be made. I do think that Brogdon will stay as long as he doesn't get injured. Clarkson's here. I do think it's going to come down to Shamet or Garrison Matthews, right? And it does look like either Pacome Dardier or Tyler Kolek will get traded, fam. Diawara's not getting moved. Deuce is not getting moved. It's come down to final two, I think. So let me ask y'all in the chat, right? Or do you just think Landry Shamet misses out? Let me know in the chat. Does Landry miss out, or does Pacome Dardier or Tyler Kolek get traded? And again, like, if we don't get Giannis, I'm not going to lose much sleep as long as he goes out west. As I said before, the cardinal sin will be if we let an Eastern Conference rival now that he said, I want to go to the Knicks, right? We have some responsibility in this situation now, right? To, to kick the tires, see what makes sense. But you have to try to make sure that he doesn't go to an Eastern Conference rival, because then that just makes your pathway to the finals even more difficult. So if we don't get Giannis, I'm not gonna lose too much sleep as long as we're still a contender, but as long as he goes out west. Margaret says Knicks can be a dynasty. Absolutely, we can. I think last season, unfortunately, man, Margaret, I wish we'd got to the finals, and I think that would have been the first year of this title contention, and maybe even causing an upset. We don't even know how that would have played out with Oklahoma, man, but we missed out. I think we were deserving of beating Indiana. I think we just, we choked it away in game one. But this season, I think we've learned a lot. Guys are coming back with some continuity and some new weapons. So I'm excited with a new coach as well. Mark says, I think the offense should go through OG and Bridges a lot during the regular season. And I think it will. I think we've seen a lot of JB and so one of the biggest changes offensively we've seen, guys, is the dual point guard front, or the dual guards, bringing it up in a 2-guard alignment, right? So that's going to relieve ball pressure off Jalen Brunson. How he can get up the court, he can skirt to the corners quickly. He can do the blind pig action, or he can run other sets, off ball movement like Steph Curry. I think Mike Brown, shout out. We're seeing, I'm not going to say fully, but we're seeing remnants of a Golden State, Steve Kerr offense as well. And he's actually got Mitch coming up as a hub. Shout out to Mitch. It looks like they've been practicing that a lot. I think we've known for a while that Mitch is going to start. But yeah, he's looked more comfortable passing, simple passes, nothing crazy. But I think Mitch sort of coming up is kind of opening up the paint a little bit more, fam. Right? That's smart. Now Mitch can't space the floor out with shooting, but if Mitch comes out onto the perimeter more as that outlet, kind of in the high post area, or the elbow, he can come out, right? His man has to make a decision. Okay, do I hang back, or do I come up onto Mitch? And so that's just small little details that's, stressing out the defense a little bit more than we didn't last season. And getting these guys moving. You've just got to get the defense moving around. Randu 1973 says, for me, it's the finals or bust. If we don't get to the finals this season, then we can explore that trade for Giannis. Absolutely, man. I think great comment. Shout out to you. Makes a lot of sense. Let's see this thing play out. Maybe some people that aren't fully on board the Giannis move now will be 100% on board if we, don't get to our destination, which is the NBA Finals, fam. And I just think the NBA can change so quickly, fam. Again, I've been around this situation a lot, as are many of y'all. All it takes is Jason Tatum to maybe get back early. Looks like he's going to get back early, right? Remember, 2 months ago, everyone was like, yeah, Boston's out of the running. Tatum's out. Next thing we know, man, Tatum's coming back in April or March. Now, I'm not going to fear that too much, but that is still something to pay attention to. So you never know when that window is going to stay open. You just never know. Chris Gotti says Diawara over Dardier. Yeah, I see a lot of people really talk about, is that a competition between the two? You know, I'm looking at it like I'd love to keep both, but truth be told, I think, yeah, the organization will look at Diawara and say, hey, you were a second round pick on a cheaper deal, whereas Dardier, a little bit smaller, and the jump shot's still a work in progress as well, fam. But I'd love to keep both, man, as the French connection. Also, that could help us maybe keep Yabusele for another season on the cheap, man. Remember, I think we did some back scratching of his agent. You know, Diawara, Yabusele share the same agent, possibly even Dardier, I'm not sure. But the more that we can keep these guys happy, maybe Yabusele will stick around on a cheaper contract. I would love to keep Yabusele. I know the season hasn't even played out, but I already know that he's going to be a valuable player, and he's only 30, got back into the league, right? That swat that he had against Philadelphia was awesome, and hopefully we see more defensive plays. But a big man that can rebound, shoot it, dribble, that's versatility, and that's going to help us, you know, with different lineups. Margaret says Shamet will get playing time. He shoots threes, plays D. Really appreciate what Landry gave us, and I could see Shamet staying. I just have to make that tough call, fam, and I just don't want us to go too vet heavy. I think keeping Dardier around is the play for me. Johnny says this team was built to win a chip this year, not to be taken apart on Giannis's whim. Yeah, you know, and I think it's a lot of disruption, definitely to start the season. I really felt like this news could have dropped in August, but it is what it is. I think he's having maybe some regret, some buyer's remorse out here. Maybe he's had a couple of training camp practices with Milwaukee, and he's like, and the reality has set in that he's going to be a part of an average squad. Maybe he's just over there looking in the corner, like looking at the New York Knicks, like the grass is greener out here. But yeah, we can't get too distracted. Like Yuri Ark says, not fall for that shiny new toy. Let's not get too distracted, right? So yeah, you know, we have all the makings of a finals team this year. A lot of y'all are big up on Landry, but a lot of y'all also like Pacome Dardier, right? We do have Diawara, Kevin McCullough. Let's not forget about him. Tosan, I'm looking kind of slightly different because he's an older prospect as well. You know, he's kind of more of a two-way guy that I see for now. I don't know how much upside there is with him. McCullough, I think the floor is solid. But with Dardier and Diawara, I think that just the upside is different with those guys. But yeah, Landry's ability to knock down those shots is key. Now, with Garrison Matthews, I think like we're going to see. We're going to know a lot more. And with that said, it's time to dial up the preview for Minnesota. We bring up the depth chart. Minnesota now. This is going to be a real test. This is going to test our new defense. Now, I don't think... Well, it will test our offense too, because Minnesota are better defensively than Philadelphia. Obviously, this pace and space, you know, the extra 3-point shots has been a great story from the first two preseason games. But with Milwaukee brings Rudy Gobert. They bring, some tenacious players like Ant Edwards, Terrence Shannon. They got Rob Dillingham, who's going to try to, make force the issue coming into his sophomore season. They got the vet Mike Conley. They've got the Australian big man Rocco, the 7'6" beanpole, right? He's had a pretty solid preseason as well, fam. He went late in the second round. I know about Rocco's game. Basically, he's a Australian Wembanyama, but without the athleticism. He's the Australian Zach Edey. Basically, he's a big lump, but with a decent touch around the basket. He's going to block some shots. Um, they've got Jaden McDaniels as well. And how can we forget Julius Randle coming back to New York City, man? He might be, hitting up his weed guy for some gear in New York City. But with that said, I think Dante DiVincenzo as well, man. He's going to be forcing the issue, you know that. So yeah, with the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think we're looking at a team that is going to finish top 4 in the NBA, no least. Top 4, top 5, and it's going to be a great test. Mike Brown confirmed today that the New York Knicks are going to deploy the starters, fam, in the second half. So it will be a more of a dress rehearsal. It will be an extended, minutes for the starters in this one. So yeah, Rando says Brogdon serves more of a purpose than Shamet does on the team. Mark says no one on Minnesota scares me. Yeah, I agree. And if I'm looking at some of the main contenders out west, I think, without being disrespectful, I think the best case scenario would be the Timberwolves get out of the West, because I think the Rockets would be a different challenge. They're, I think, a little bit more tougher defensively, physically, with their coach as well. I think in the half court we could give Minnesota some real problems. You can kind of double, which he hates, but you could double Ant-Man. You could frustrate him a lot easier and get the ball out of his hands. And they've got a couple of other guys that can make good plays, but not to the level of I think of Denver and OKC. So I think in an ideal world, Minnesota get out of the West. I think that would be one of our best chances to winning the chip. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree. Would y'all want the Rockets now without Fred VanVleet? I think that would probably be second for me. OKC third. Or the Nuggets third. OKC fourth. Johnny says, CT, can Knicks maneuver next year to get Giannis and Dante back with the squad? So next year would be Dante's final season. He would still be on the 12 million, I think, whatever it is, the 12 to $15 million mid-level. Now the salary cap's going to go up a bit. Yeah, there are ways. There are definitely ways, and I think we've got so many different guys on salaries that it could be a 5-6 team trade, but we could find ways to send out more salary than we take back. Now with the new CBA, it's going to restrict those other teams, so things are going to get tricky, but it's still possible, fam. One thing I'm looking out for is the salary cap to go up. I'm paying attention to Mitchell Robinson's contract, because the Knicks might just decide, okay, we're going to go over the second apron next season and really go all in. And in that case, their salary would, they would not hesitate to add more salary. Right now, we're hard capped below the second apron. So the Knicks will have a lot of decisions they need to make. I think it'll all depend on how competitive we are this season, fam, and how it all plays out. How it all plays out. I think in regards to Mitch as well, I mean, he looks the most locked in I've seen. Maybe his biggest role on the squad since he's been a New York Knick. With Mitchy Rob, you've got a guy who's now more involved in the offense. Defensively, he looks more mature and experienced than he's ever been defensively. The anchor of the defense, he looks so locked in right now, man. And I think Mitchell Robinson's going to play himself into a nice contract, whether it's here or elsewhere. I hope it's here, but I think as long as he can stay healthy, right, he's going to get a solid deal. maybe more than that as well. So let's see how that plays out. Um, yeah, I'm loving the more diverse offense. That's the best way to be less predictable. And if anything taught me, if there's a lesson I learned from Indiana, is obviously to respect them as much as it hurts me. Indiana have been a formidable foe, but you got to respect what Carlisle was able to do with a ragtag roster in terms of like, okay, it was Tyrese Halliburton. I didn't quite rate Pascal Siakam as highly as I do now. Miles Turner's kind of up and down, but Neesmith, Nemhard, they had Thomas Bryant, Benedict Mathurin, TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin. They just had so many weapons that you couldn't really key in on one guy. And I feel like it's the same thing with the New York Knicks right now, right? Last year we were predictable because the way Tibbs ran the offense was, okay, let's just key in on Jalen Brunson. He's the engine. He's the Ferrari, the Lamborghini of this offense, right? Whereas we had, Pacers had other guys that could run the offense. Now, with Mike Brown, we're going to be so less predictable, kind of like Golden State, fam. As we continue to shout you guys out, welcome into the building. Anyone just joining us as well, you got the Knicks streets buzzing, right? On the eve of a brand new season. We're all hyped, right? No more hype than Jason Benjamin with another super chat. Big up to Jason. Says again, trading a young wing to keep Shamet would be poor asset management. If we are banking on an 11th man to win a chip, we've had a bad season, right? 100% agree with you, Jason. And I said earlier, I could see the front office's vision in terms of like, okay, last season you need a couple more trusted vets, no doubt. I think with the campaign thing, you needed to kind of upgrade that. Precious Achua, as much as I've always got love for Precious, from the area, love what he gave. But Precious Achua, you could upgrade that spot, and I think we have with Yabu. Campaign, I think we've upgraded with Brogdon, Clarkson, but I think that's enough. And I think throwing away Dardier just for Shamit, I think would be poor asset management. But at the end of the day, if they won us the championship, I would have no complaints. But if I'm making the call right now, I would, I would definitely keep Bacome Dardier, right? If it means maybe missing out on Garrison Matthews, then you trade Kolek to make way for Shamit. Right? If you really want to keep Shamit that much, I would probably trade Tyler Kolek ahead of Dardier, right? But right now, I think, like I said, there's only so many minutes that's going to be available, really. How much is Shamit really going to play? He's situational, I think, at best, right now. So, again, just a 20-year-old Dardier, I think the sky is the limit with him, right? Could take guys time. Look at Quentin Grimes, man. Quentin Grimes is what, 24, 25 now? He's only just coming into his, like Quentin Grimes is going to have a serious season this year on a prove it deal, qualifying offer deal, right? But it's taken him some time, man. He had to go through the lumps with the Knicks, a couple of failed playoff runs, a couple of, being traded around the block 4 times to, to Dallas, Detroit, over to Philly from the Knicks. Now, he's poised for a breakout season. He's 24, 25, 26. I forget. Bacome Dardier is only 20, right? So you have to express patience with some of these guys. I think all Dardier needs to do is take one step forward, and he's already at the level of a Landry in terms of, I think, at least defensively. Uh, yeah, Johnny says Mike Brown is on cloud 9 with these options. AP salute says CT. If the Bucks didn't think the Knicks had a package, what other team in the league got something better to offer? I think one team out east, or 2 teams out east. I think Orlando and I think Boston. AP. I think Orlando could put together a hell of a package. I mean, if you're the Bucks, I'll take Franz Wagner off your hands. I'll take Franz Wagner or Paolo Banchero off your hands. That's a great young talent for 10 years plus. If I'm Boston, if I'm Milwaukee, yeah, that could kind of soften the blow for the season ticket holders. If you were to get Jaylen Brown, he's still got some mileage left. You could maybe get a Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, or Jaylen Brown, Derek White picks, etc. Now out west, I think the Rockets, they've got Jabari Smith, they've got Tari Eason, got some of those guys could throw in there, fam. That they'd probably even throw Şengün in the deal. So I think those are probably 3 teams to watch out for, fam. I know the Spurs would be able to put together a decent package, but I think Giannis would probably have to force it. I think he would have to force it to the Spurs, Wemby and Giannis. I think that's a little bit clunky. I know people would be looking at that like, man, how do you score against those two guys? But I think offensively it would be a little bit clunky with their size, man, getting in the way. Johnny says McCullough is the next Deuce, will dominate the G. Yep. Jason with another super chat. Jason Benjamin, salute, says our core 9 is good enough to win that chip and keep Bacombe. We need to keep a young talent in our war chest, especially in this apron era, and just show that patience. Definitely, you have to see the forest from the trees, because OG is turning, he's going to be turning 30 plus. Macau is going to be turning 30 plus. Josh Hart is already 30 plus, turning 31. They're already with a lot of mileage, and his body is getting banged up. I love Hart because he's been through the wars with us, but his body is starting to show the effects now, with the finger, the abdomen, all the kind of injuries that are coming up right now with Bacombe Dardier. I think the biggest thing, as you say, cost control in an apron era, right, with upside now as well. Now, I know we're trying to go all in for the chip. Yeah, size is key, fam. It's a wing league as well. And you could switch Bacombe Dardier onto multiple players, I think, with his size. Now, look, I'm not going to sell Landry short. He's effective defensively. But we all saw some of those possessions against Indiana where it was, he was back down. He was back down and put into the weight room with a couple of bigger wings. I think Siakam got a couple of switches. I think Benedict Mathurin took advantage of Landry on a couple of possessions as well. Now, Bacombe Dardier still growing into his body, but once he, fills out completely, you ain't backing a wing ain't taking advantage of Bacombe Dardier like that. I think because he's got the length and he's got the size too. And I kind of want to give Mike Brown one project. If you want to give Mike Brown a brand new coach, let him sink his development into Bacombe Dardier and say, hey, this could be your Keon Ellis. This could be your project that you can, hopefully turn into a starting wing in the league. Now, we obviously got Diawara. We got McCullough as well. That's good. That's good as well. Prezi the boss says, so you can fill in slots with the affordable young'uns that prove themselves and have bread to go after the big name supporting players if you don't re-sign Mitch. The cap will go up and obviously the TV deals, but there is a possibility of re-signing Mitch at a solid deal and staying below the second apron. You still are able to go over the second apron, but after a couple of years, you start to see those penalties come in. So the Knicks are still keeping their ammunition, I think, where they still can go over the second apron. If I have to make a prediction, I think re-signing Mitch would put us over into the second apron, because I think he's going to earn a solid bag. I think he really is. The bigger role, as long as he can stay healthy, I think Mitchie's going to have a breakout season, like an absolute massive massive season, and we need that defensively, fam. And we've seen Cat trim down. Let me bring up that graphic of Cat. Okay, here we go. So yeah, I'll also bring this up. So for the title, the New York Knicks are 4th favorite according to DraftKings. There's not much that separates the Cleveland Cavaliers and us, and a little bit between the Nuggets and us as well. But we all know that we've played the Nuggets very strong. I think we have beaten the Nuggets 3 out of the last 4 as well. But what's very interesting is now we're ahead of the Rockets. We are firmly ahead of the Timberwolves and the Lakers, of course. So championship season coming up, right? And here it is. Karl-Anthony Towns says that he has focused on his summer to prepare playing for power forward role for an extended stretch, and he's dropped some weight, and you kind of see it, fam. Hopefully that helps his feet moving on defense as well, but running the floor. Karl-Anthony Towns has been, showing this season, preseason so far, that he's been running the floor well, right? Now, unfortunately, to the Pacome conversation, fam, sources are telling Mark Stein, the Stein line, that Knicks have already called several teams with interest in Pacome Dardier, right? When Mark Stein was working the phones on Friday, numerous teams were convinced that New York had Dardier in the starting lineup last Thursday purely to showcase him. Also, the latest on Garrison Matthews Landry is that Jake Fisher of the Stein line is hearing that Garrison Matthews is a legit contender to make the roster spot earmarked for Landry, or the spot that Landry hopes to claim, right? So this is a real battle, and shout out to the front office, man. They didn't just sign Garrison Matthews for the heck of it. They didn't just sign him to look like a shiny new toy in the window. He is legit, and he is pushing Landry Shamet. Now, we know that Garrison Matthews is going to play in the first half on Thursday against Minnesota, man. And I think the Garden crowd is going to get into it if he starts to hit those threes. So let's see. Let's see how that plays out on Thursday, fam. 7:30 p.m. tip Eastern time, and we'll be live post game directly after the game, fam, to break it all down. But yeah, a lot of moving parts, man. Dardier, does Garrison Matthews and Shamet make it? Or does only one of them make it, fam? We got to see more from Malcolm Brogdon. Also, does a conversation start to come up about Jordan Clarkson, fam? Right? He's on a non-guarantee deal. So, you just never know, fam. You just never know. I do think Clarkson's going to stay, but if other guys play better than him, a conversation might come up. Conversation might be had. With that said, so here's one of our great possessions. You see the movement offense, right? The movement and flow that the Knicks are building towards, wing cuts on both sides with quick decisions being made. You see Mitch out there, roll hard. Players just got to get used to where each player is going, man, and not, kind of congest the space. But it looked great against Philadelphia. Let's see how it looks against, some better opponents, fam. But yeah, we roll the highlights from game 2, right? Jalen Brunson looks trimmer. OG looks trimmer as well. And so does Cat, too. I completely agree, Margaret. Nothing is guaranteed. Atlanta got better. Yep, definitely. It's all about the window capitalizing. Fortunately, our window is open right now. Let's see for how long. Let's take advantage, right? But Giannis is only 30, so if we were to possibly be able to acquire him, our window, I think, could extend. Shout out to everyone in the building and replay squad. You've got the Knicks streets buzzing. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Right. Yeah, what did y'all think about the whole LeBron PR stunt, man? I'm done with that, man. I can't wait for LeBron to finally hang him up, right? The new guard is firmly in play now. Brunson's a top 10 player in the league. I think he's only going to climb a lot higher. Hopefully, Cat gets a lot more shine than he deserved. More shine that he deserved. Coming in, right? I think had his most productive season offensively in his career, right? Still a lot more, opportunities to get more threes up, too, with this squad. Our depth is our strength right now, and I think that's the case people are making for no Giannis trade, ladies and gentlemen. Like, again, one of the reasons I think this is our best shot since 1994 is this is the deepest I think we've been in terms of 1 through 12 or 1 through 13, right? A couple guys get injured, there's other guys that can step up. We didn't have that last season, right? Also, the two wings, right? For any Giannis trade to happen, there's no way we're able to keep both of those wings in OG and Macau. And so, is it a case of appreciate what we have right now? If there's a chance we might not have it. The poll in the building says, are you on board with the Giannis trade? 39% now is leading after 70 votes. Says, hell yeah, let's do this ASAP. Just behind, number 2, 36% say no, let's stay pat. So it's neck and neck, man. And maybe some of y'all just need to see a small part of the season play out and just see that look under Mike Brown. But the depth is our biggest strength right now. We built this core to keep it together financially as well. Guys have contracts. We can make a sustained run at this. The shooting is what I'm excited about as well, because Mike Brown is more open to playing, these spaced out lineups, And look, as much as I love Josh Hart, I think the natural growth of the team, not anything pertaining to Hart individually, but the growth of the team has enabled Hart to take a reduced role, right? And sometimes somebody has to sacrifice. To win a championship, somebody has to be not just somebody, but a lot of people have to sacrifice. And I think Josh Hart will be one of those guys. But I think truthfully, under Thibodeau, he probably was overused, under Thibodeau. And it worked sometimes, but it didn't work other times. So I think Hart is going to form back to his natural role of being a dynamic role player with lower usage, fam. But off the bench, I do think that Hart is going to be, hopefully fully healthy, and full energy and ready to get into it as a major bench piece, right? Mark says we need height. Garrison Matthews with that 6'6" frame. I think Diawara, McCullough, and Dardier, really, really got us, in a good position, defensively, too. We're very switchable. They can ball handle as well. Look, I think defensively, I think we're going to make the biggest leap defensively this season. We gave up a lot of threes. The Tibbs system, the drop coverage, that really did hurt us, defensively, right? Mitch is fully healthy now. We didn't have Mitch last season. David says LeBron, that guest that sticks around, not realizing the party is over and the hosts want to go to bed. Nice one, David. Look, yeah, he fulfilled his dream to play with his son, Bronny James. He come out and said, look, I'm not waiting around for Bryce James as well. That'd be crazy. But he played not 1 but 2 seasons with Bronny James now. Um, and yeah, I think the time is coming right now. So yeah, with that said, man, game 3, Minnesota. I think our defense and offense will be put to the test, right? But in front of the Madison Square Garden faithful, right, ready to salute these new Knicks and keep them together, ready to encourage and fire up these role players who are competing for some spots and some minutes, right? I do think the situationals will probably see some end of the game mop up duty. As I turn over to the roster, I do think, we'll see Huck Porty play major minutes. We'll see Diawara Dadier get showcased. Kolek will play at the end of the game. But I do think that we are going to run the starters into the second half, as Mike Brown alluded to. So start of the second half, the starters will play a bit more. Garrison Matthews will be that guy that probably plays a little bit more. Maybe Malcolm Brogdon plays slightly less. And we see Landry or Garrison Matthews, really battle it out. I mean, there's only 3 games left. We're going to blink and the regular season will be here, ladies and gentlemen. With OG Anunoby fresh off the game ball, right? We'll see if OG can back it up and have another savage performance, right? Deuce McBride also winning the game ball in the first game. We'll see how that plays out. Really excited, man, for the start of the season. Washington, Charlotte, with a basically a cushy week, and then a couple of days rest. Get at it opening night at home versus Cleveland as well, and then Boston for a Eastern Conference semifinal rematch with no Jason Tatum, also at Madison Square Garden. Man, that's going to be the first game on Amazon Prime on Friday, the first Friday night Knicks game of the season versus Boston, man. That's going to be popping, and the chat is going to be buzzing on that night, fam. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to making that statement against Cleveland, right? Because it's us and Cleveland to start the season, right? Another team might stake their claim, like Atlanta, like Margaret said earlier in the chat. I think Atlanta are definitely among the contenders in the East. But the Knicks and Cleveland opening night, Madison Square Garden, man, that's going to be an early statement for whichever ball club to get off to that, to the best start. They've signed Lonzo Ball. They've got DeAndre Hunter. Obviously, they've got, a lot of talent early, right? They ran out of steam. They ran out of health late down the stretch, in Indiana just wore them down before they wore us down. Right? But Cleveland, man, 2 failed seasons with high expectations, man. It's kind of bust. It's championship or bust as well for Cleveland, if you're thinking, man. Otherwise, they're going to have to break it up in some way. There's already talk that Darius Garland, one of those 2, backcourt guys has to get moved, right? And it's obviously going to be Darius Garland before Spider. So there's a lot of pressure and a lot of intensity on Cleveland right now, for all of the noise that's coming out. So we'll see how that all plays out, ladies and gentlemen. But with that said, we'll wrap this one up, right? Obviously, the Giannis thing ain't going nowhere. We'll continue to break it down and talk about this season ahead with this roster built to go all the way. Let's focus on that as we end the poll. It is neck and neck, 37 apiece. Ladies and gentlemen, 37% even, dead even. Say, hell yeah, let's do this ASAP. Says no, let's stay pat. Right, so it's completely split down the middle. 19% say maybe, let's wait it out till the price goes down. 7% say the Bucks will just use us as well. So Danny Lander says, get the Greek freak. Prezi the boss says, salute for another great show. Appreciate y'all. And great buzz tonight, man. Salute to everyone in the building for your comments, questions, and thoughts out here. Big up to everyone. Thanks for the super chat contributions to Jason and Yuri. And let's keep this thing buzzing, ladies and gentlemen. The closer we get to the season starting, the more the buzz is going to height up to. And these guys know the stakes, man. If you're one of these Knicks in that locker room hearing that report today, it only raises the stakes that this season we ain't playing around, man. Go get the job done, fam. Get that job done, fam, and win that championship while the window is wide open out east, because you just never know, right? You just never know what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. But we're built for this, and now is our time to try to get it done, right? And look forward to seeing how it all plays out. The Cam battles, we've got 3 more games. I think Charlotte, Washington, the Cam battles might come down to those games, but Minnesota will kind of be will be the first dress rehearsal, I feel, where the starters are going to play more minutes, right? It's good to have these break days as well. You know, the squad can fly back from Abu Dhabi. Mitch can rest up, and we don't have to overuse some of these guys as well. Do they showcase Bacone Dardier again and Diawara playing more minutes too? I like what I've seen from Trey Jemison and Tosan and McCullough. So hopefully before the season kicks off, they can get more opportunities just to feel more connected and shake off some of the rust, right, from some of those two-way guys. So look forward to seeing them as well. And everyone out here, salute to you. Peace. Let's see you on Thursday night, prime time, post-game, live versus Minnesota. Hopefully we're 3-0. Salute.